While the Chicago Bulls offense has taken a big turn in the right direction this season, I want to talk about today what is the Bulls' biggest flaw on the offensive side of the ball, and can it still be fixed this season? We're going to talk about all that plus more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central and Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you guys by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, y'all. So I want to talk about what the Bulls' biggest flaw is on the offensive side of the ball. But before we talk about the flaw, we have to talk about where the strengths are so that we can contrast that with the flaws. So one of the strengths that the Chicago Bulls have is just generally their shooting. When you look at above the break threes, the Chicago Bulls are actually third in attempts per game and above the break threes, taking 31 three-point attempts above the break. And that is a highly efficient shot for the Bulls. They're hitting that at 38%, which sounds bad, but it's actually fifth in the league as far as percentage on above the break threes. They're making the third most as well at 12.1. When you look at the corner threes, which is another efficient shot in the game of basketball, the Chicago Bulls are they're hitting that at a 37% clip, which is 17th in the NBA, but they're taking the second most attempts in the NBA at 11 and a half attempts at that shot frequency. So when you look at it, 46% of the Chicago Bulls total shots, 46% of the Bulls total shots are coming from the three-point line. That's ridiculous numbers when you think about that, especially comparative to how the Chicago Bulls have been the last couple of years, and they're hitting that at decent rates when it comes down to it. They are one of the better three-point shooting teams in the NBA per percentage. Now, where things start getting a little bit more wonky for the Chicago Bulls is the mid-range shot. We've been a very reliant mid-range shooting team over the last 3 seasons, especially with having DeMar DeRozan here. And while the Chicago Bulls are still taking a decent amount, they're hitting at a 43% clip, which is 9th in the NBA, but we're taking the 20th most mid-range shots in the NBA. That's solid. That's where you want to be. It's okay to be there, right? But then where it starts getting concerning for the Chicago Bulls is that despite the Bulls having the third best field goal shooting percentage in the paint, they're only taking 12 attempts in the paint per game. That's 29th in the NBA. That puts them at damn near dead last, and they're only making 6.1 field goal attempts in the paint in the NBA. Per game. That's 22nd in the NBA. It's not really a good percentage. The Chicago Bulls offense right now is mainly built around three-point shooting. Now, they have some other wrinkles in their game. Mid-range shot is still weighted, is still pretty good for them, but they're taking the majority of the three-point shots there. And it's just, it's how the offense has tried to adapt to keep up with the modern NBA. But where things start getting a little bit bad for the Chicago Bulls, not a little bit, I want to be clear, where they're getting terrible for the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls are one of the worst half-court offenses in the NBA. And that's where things are going left for the Chicago Bulls. When we see the Bulls rocking and rolling, most of what they do is on the fast break. To just put that in comparison, the Chicago Bulls have one of the better fast break efficiencies in the NBA. But half-court-wise, it's a way bigger difference. When you look at half the court, in half-court, the Chicago Bulls are shooting a bad. It's real bad when it comes down to it. They are shooting sub 30% in half-court situations. And so when you force the Chicago Bulls to be more of a half-court team, they actually are becoming more of a mid-range team, which is not playing to their strengths. And that's where the Bulls are really failing at when it comes down to that. The Bulls, looking at this, their three-point shooting percentage, when you look at the corner threes in the half-court, the Chicago Bulls are hitting that at damn near a 32% clip. That's not good. Above the break threes, when they're in half-court sets, they're hitting that at almost a 33% clip. Not really good at all. Mid-range for the Chicago Bulls. They're actually pretty good mid-range still in the half court, but we just don't run it enough. We shoot the ball 43% in half court scenarios, I'm sorry, at mid-range in the half-court scenarios, you actually have to run a set. But the problem is that the Bulls are only running plays for that 9.3% of the time. So what does that mean? The Bulls, while are efficient and good at one of the more difficult things or the more common things now in the NBA as far as three-point shooting, when you look at the things that are just typical of an efficient offense, the Bulls have no half-court offense right now. None. No half-court offense. It's not there. And so that's where the Bulls offense has its biggest flaws at. When you force the team to be a half-court team, and I've been saying this for a while, but I like having the numbers here now to use that to back it up, the Bulls are bad. The Bulls are terrible. Also, when you look at the half-court situation as well, we're taking so much larger of a point of unassisted shots in the half-court. Look at it. 62% of our shots in the half-court are unassisted. When you flip that and look at just generally for the team, when you look at that, 79% of our shots are assisted when we're in the fast break. It's just when the Bulls are playing, and this is why it coincides with the Bulls' other weakness, and that's defense. When you're not playing solid defense, you're not getting out in transition in a natural way, which thus teams can force you more to a half-court set. And when the Bulls are forced to go into a half-court set, they go from one of the best offenses in the NBA to one of the worst offenses in the NBA. That's where the Bulls are failing at right now. That's where they're failing at. And if with us not having a half-court offense, it's gonna continually hurt this team. And that's what you have to look at it with. And so while I love the fact that the Bulls are assisting more generally, when you look at it right now, we have the 13th most assisted shots in the NBA. That's good. That's what helps this team. When you look at our field goal shooting percentage when it's assisted as well on three-point attempts, when we're assisted, we're hitting it at a damn near 65% clip. Do you know how ridiculous that is? That is ridiculous. The Bulls have to find a way. And while I got to give Billy Donovan his props for what he's been able to do as far as changing the style of play for this offense, the thing that's failing is that we don't have any bag. Our bag right now is getting out and running and hoping that we attack before the defense is set up. And that's not a sustainable style of winning. It just isn't. And so as long as the Bulls keep playing basketball that way, it's going to be a real big struggle for this team to perform in that way. It just is. There's really no way around it. There's no way around it. And despite us being a fast break team, we are bottom of the league as far as dunks attempted, dunks made, and field goal percentage on dunks. How do you have a bad field goal percentage on dunks? And no, it's not just Patrick Williams before people bring up Patrick Williams. That's again, the Bulls are failing at what should be the simple part of offense. And that's the problem with this team. That's the biggest flaw with this offense. The things that should come easy have been huge negatives for this team. OPS. Wait, where'd it go? Where's the comment? OPS. DeRozan carried the half-court offense. You're right. Via what we know right now and the data that we have, that does look like that. Let's flip it, right? Just for the nature of the conversation. Let's go and look at what the Bulls were half-court-wise last season. I'm just going to throw those numbers out here real quick before we end this segment. So, for example, in half-court sets last year, the Bulls assisted buckets were 85% of their buckets were assisted in the half-court. When you also look at it, our field goal percentage in corner threes, 38%. Our field goal percentage in mid-range in half-court situations, 44%. Our field goal percentage in the paint in half-court situations, 47%. 47%. So, yeah, I mean, the one thing, and again, this is just based off 22 games worth of data for this season and a whole season worth of data last year. But if you're looking at it, there's a reason to believe that DeMar DeRozan was the half-court offense for the Chicago Bulls for the most part. Of course, Kobe stepped up last year, Vuce at times as well. But the Bulls have to find a way to be more effective in the half-court if they're going to try to get it together. They got to. And if you really want, if for any of the Bulls fans that think this season is still salvageable as far as trying to make a push for the play-in or playoffs, if you don't have a half-court offense and you don't have a defense, you're dead in the water. You are dead in the water. And there's really no way around fixing that. You cannot afford in this league to be a bad half-court offense, because I tell you what, as you play some of the better teams, and if you do get into the play-in or playoffs, teams are going to force you to play in the half court. You can't run all day long. And as long as the Bulls are inefficient at that side of the ball, it's going to continue to be a struggle for this team, at least in my opinion. It's going to be something that we continue to watch and monitor as well as the season goes on. But we're going to go on, and we're going to talk about how can the Bulls fix their half-court offense? What needs to happen to fix their half-court offense? I think I have actually a surprising answer that people may not expect. We're going to get into that, but first we're going to get into a message from one of our sponsors, and that's Chime. Have you ever hit that moment when you knew it was time to get serious about your finances? Maybe it was saving for a dream trip, paying off a credit card debt, or just getting your financial life together. That's where Chime comes in. With no monthly fees, no maintenance charges, and fee-free overdraft up to $200. Chime has you covered on those moments, whether it's withdrawing cash from over 50,000 fee-free ATMs or getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Chime gives you the tools to make progress. Need a little help? Friends can even give you a boost to temporarily increase your overdraft limit, and when they do, you can return the favor. To date, Chime members have been spotted over $30 billion. Ready to make your fall finances greener? Open up a Chime account in just 2 minutes at chime.com/NBA. That's chime.com/NBA. Feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp NA or Stride Bank NA, member FDIC. Spot Me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Boosts are available to eligible Chime members enrolled in Spot Me and are subject to monthly limits. Terms and conditions apply. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details. More Locked On Bulls coming up next. All right, Bulls fans. So now that we've talked about and diagnosed what the biggest flaw for the Chicago Bulls offense is so far this season, how can it be fixed? What can happen to fix this half-court offense? And this is where I may have a surprising answer for you, or a surprising response to you guys. The Bulls' best half-court player right now, and again, this may change as the offense get better, players get in rhythm. We'll see what happens when Kobe gets back. The best half-court player right now by the Chicago Bulls is Zach LaVine. And I know while we have typically said we don't want Zach LaVine running an offense, right? We don't want him doing much ball handling in the offense because he has been turnover prone over the course of his NBA career, and we all know that, right? We all understand that, and we've seen it. But right now, when you look at it, in half-court situations when Zach LaVine is on the court, the Bulls, it's more aligned with what we did under Billy Donovan. So when Zach LaVine is on the court and we're in half-court sets, meaning we're not in fast break, we're forced to run a half-court set, the Bulls as a whole, these aren't just Zach LaVine's numbers. These are numbers with Zach LaVine on the court, meaning this is still overall on the team. We go from one of the worst paint shooting teams in the NBA to shooting the ball almost 54% in the paint. Mid-range opportunities. We shoot the ball 49% in mid-range when Zach LaVine is on the court. When you look at also the corner three in the half court, whereas with generally the team right now in half court, we're shooting the corner threes at almost a 33% clip. We're 41% from three-point range. Above the break threes in half court, 40% with Zach LaVine on the court. Now, I'm not attesting all these stats to Zach LaVine, but I am saying this, is that when you're in the half court, threats matter. And once the Bulls are forced in a half court set, the biggest threat that we have on the court to be consistent is Zach LaVine. And even when you put that and you put on Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic back on the court as well in half court scenarios, it still gets even better. So for my fans that are for the tank or not for the tank, whatever it is when it comes down to it, so much of the simple offense, and I think that this just highlights even more how important Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic have been to the Bulls winning this year, and we haven't even won a whole lot. That's the thing in all this. We've won 9 games. We're on pace to win 32 games. And this team is so much worse when Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic aren't on the court. And this isn't to spite anybody else, but this is just facts. That's why, when you hear about the Bulls wanting to maybe maintain their top 10 pick, increase their chances to keep their top 10 pick, it all comes down to Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic. It really all comes down to that. If they're not on this team, we're probably a bottom 5 team in the league. That just is what it is. That is what it is. You have to remember something. Nikola Vucevic is a post player, so I don't know why people are so surprised. Exactly. And that's what the game of Nikola Vucevic brings to it, right? Reliable. And now that he's able to get to his spots a little bit more naturally without DeMar DeRozan occupying those spots in the mid-range, that's why we've seen a much better Nikola Vucevic this year. They got their spots on the court, and it's opened up more since DeMar left. Yes, that's a big fact. But right now, we're seeing that it's opened up more in the fast break, not necessarily in the half court. But if you're talking about Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic, yes. And keep in mind, I think people forget as well that when Nikola Vucevic first got traded here, the Bulls were on pace to make the playoffs. The reason we didn't make the playoffs is because Zach LaVine went down for, what was it? It was like the final 15 games because of what I can't mention on YouTube because they demonetized the video now for some reason. But, because of the pandemic is what I'll say. So, there you go on that one, man. But the way that the Bulls can fix their half-court offense, it comes down to Nikola Vucevic and Zach LaVine got to have a two-man game. And that's not to say that you want to marginalize Josh Giddey, you want to marginalize Lonzo Ball, you want to marginalize Ayo Dosunmu or Kobe White. But those two guys, that 1-2 punch, that's the best bet that the Bulls have right now in the half-court. It just is. And as long as our half-court defense continues to be trash, man, it's gonna keep going that way. Now playing less minutes too overall compared to last year also helps to make a player look more efficient. Who's playing less minutes? Because if I'm not mistaken, let me see. I just want to make Vooch is playing 3 less minutes than he did last year. Great point there. Great call out, Rob. But that's marginal, right? Because it's not just about minutes. It's about shots, too. You got to look at the shots that they get because technically if they get more shots in less minutes, they should and Vooch is still getting 15 shots per game. So it's not really that big of a difference, right? Because there's so many more shots going around and so much more offense being done that it would still be easy with even less minutes to be inefficient because we just have so many more shots going up than what we had last year. But still good call out there, Rob. But yeah, overall, the Bulls, if they really want to unlock something half court, we're going to have to get some half court actions in here. We're going to have to move without the ball. We're going to have to get back to the simplicities of things that I've been calling about for years. Happy birthday, Haize. You think cutting to the basket might help in the half court offense? I've been good at that. Yes. I was just about to get into that. Moving without the ball is a huge reason with that. Huge reason. And the Bulls don't do that consistently. That's why you see situations like, when we do have a player like Modest Bucilis that's out there just moving, right? When we do have Ayo out there just moving, when we have those guys that are moving without the ball, it creates more opportunities. Movement creates also causes the defense to move. When you cause the defense to move, it creates lanes. If you get players that are moving without the ball, they can move in space. Those lanes become open shots. It's again, this is just the simplicity of basketball that we're talking about now. When you talk about half court basketball, it's just about the simple parts. And we don't do that. We don't do that. We don't do that. Rob says the shots within 14 seconds at times also keeps it moved. Not necessarily. Not if you watch the team getting the shots in 14 seconds, it sounds good, but it doesn't always create more movement because sometimes the players just get rebounds, pass it out, and then we're back, right? We don't run a set. So it's not really getting that so much, but we got to move off the ball. We got to use Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic more in the half court. We got to rely on the things like this offense is good, but this offense could be great. It really could be. This offense could possibly be great. The reason why the offense is not great is because we don't have a half court offense. We don't get out in, we don't move without the ball. We don't cut consistently. We don't follow up our shots. We don't go after putbacks often. We're not efficient at the rim. It's so many things that could take this off. Now that you set the base of being one of the better 3-point shooting teams in the league, right? Now that you set the pace of being one of the fastest playing teams in the league, if you can just add those wrinkles into your offense of some semblance of an actual half-court offense, this offense could be great. Now, I don't know if it's going to happen. The potential of it doesn't always mean it's going to be realized, but it does have opportunities to be great. We just haven't seen it yet because we don't run things well. We're just out there again. What have I called it? The button mashing offense. Because we don't have a plan. We need to get that. And if the Bulls can, hey, maybe they can get into a win streak, which is going to be our next topic. We're going to talk about, can the Bulls start stringing together some wins? But first, we got to get to a message from one of our sponsors. This time, it's FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you go check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I've been telling you guys for so long, this is a leg up that other betting sites do not give you with the ability to go ahead and get all the information that you need to place an informed bet on the exact same page where you actually place your bets. It just makes everything more streamlined. It gets you out quicker. It's simple. FanDuel is making it simple for you. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. More Locked On Bulls coming up right after this. All right, Bulls fans, man. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Bulls every single day. I want to remind you guys as well, go to LockedOnDaily.com and sign up for the Locked On Bulls newsletter. You can also sign up for a newsletter of any other team. I don't care about those teams, though. Go and sign up for the Locked On Bulls newsletter where I'm dropping information in your inbox every single morning. Make sure you guys are following that as well. But with that said, can a win streak be coming for the Chicago Bulls? The Bulls have a stretch of 5 games. They have their first 3-game homestand of the season coming up. It's crazy that we haven't played 3 games in a row at home yet this season. We're a month and a half into the season. But when you look at the next 5 games for the Chicago Bulls, we go out on the road to face San Antonio today, right? They're going to be without Wemby. That's an opportunity to win that game. We then on Friday face off against the Indiana Pacers, who the Pacers, listen, Tyrese Halliburton is struggling. The Pacers are struggling. They got 9 wins just like we got 9 wins. There's an opportunity to win that game. The Philadelphia 76ers are showing some signs of maybe getting their life together, but still, I would think right now, look at them. They've won 2 out of their last 5 games, which is crazy that we're saying that that's kind of working things out for the 76ers, but they're still a team that can get got, right? Can the Bulls put together a win streak? Then you look at, we got Charlotte next Friday. And so then after that, we got Toronto on Monday. Those are all 5 winnable games. Now, in no way am I saying that the Bulls are going to win all 5 of those games. I actually was in a conversation with ATS where he's like, oh, it should be easy for the Bulls to get a 5-game win streak. Now, come on. This is the Chicago Bulls. Easy to get a 5-game win streak? No. But these are winnable games for the Bulls. They just have to be prepared. And a winning streak in this, even if over the next 5, the Bulls were to win 3 out of the next 5, that drastically changes a few things for the Chicago Bulls as far as standings and other things. So you just got to figure out what's going to happen here. But these are winnable games by the Chicago Bulls. These are all teams that are all around the same area where the Bulls are. And so, therefore, these are winnable games. Now, this is also the Chicago Bulls. And we've seen the Bulls at times lose against teams that we all thought they should win against. So you can take nothing for granted when it comes to the Chicago Bulls. But I will say this, you just want to play well. And listen, over this stretch, we're going to get players back. Kobe's eventually going to come back. P. Will's eventually going to come back. Lonzo's going to play in some of these games as well. That's the question here. If the Bulls can get a little win streak going here, it'll be really, really fun to watch. Really fun to watch. Shay says that was the games that we could possibly lose because the team is dysfunctional. Facts. Look, listen, that's why I'm not saying guaranteed. I would never guarantee a Bulls win. We've seen the Bulls lose way too many easy games over the last few years. Can't believe the Nets are better than Indy right now. I mean, listen, it's really crazy how like I didn't think that the Nets would have 10 wins at the halfway mark of this season. And they're playing really, really good. Really, really good. So these next 5 games, winnable games for the Bulls. They just got to be prepared. But the one thing with this Bulls team is that the defense is so bad that winnable games can easily turn into losable games if the Bulls don't at least give effort defensively. That's really all it comes down to for this Bulls team. If they can just give effort defensively night in and night out, so much changes for this team. Will they do it? I guess we'll see, but we'll be covering it all right here on Locked On Bulls. Make sure you guys are following us at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me personally at CEO Haize. Locked On Bulls is free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, Amazon Fire TV. You can find us everywhere. Thank you guys for tuning in. Go Bulls. See red. Love you guys. Peace, y'all. And it's my birthday, y'all. Peace.